Hi there. Welcome back to our next session on Struts 2.0 framework. In this session we will learn about struts validation with various ways. So let's start doing it. To avoid the wrong values, we need to perform validation on forms where user submits some values. For example, if user writes his or her email ID as ABC, we need to give error message to the user that the given email ID is not correct, so that we can have only valuable information. There are three ways to perform validation in Struts 2.0. By custom validation here, we must implement the validatable interface, or extend action support class, and provide the implementation of validate method. By input validation, built-in validators, Struts 2 provides a lot of predefined that can be used in Struts 2 application to perform validation. Struts 2 provides following bundled validators: required string validator, string length validator, email validator, date validator, int validator, double validator, URL validator, regex validator. By Ajax validation, built-in validators with Ajax. If we don't want to refresh the page, we can use JSON validation interceptor to perform validation with Ajax. Struts 2 custom validation workflow. We can define our own validation logic, custom validation, in Struts 2 by implementing the validatable interface in the action class. The workflow interceptor is used to get information about the error messages defined in the action class. Workflow interceptor. The workflow interceptor checks if there is any validation errors or not. It doesn't perform any validation. It is applied when action class implements the validatable interface. The input is the default parameter for this interceptor that determines the result to be invoked for the action or field error. It is found in the default stack, so we don't need to define it explicitly. The steps are as follows. Create the form to get input from the user. Define the validation logic in action class by extending the action support class and overriding the validate method. And define result for the error message by the name input in struts.xml file. Struts 2 validation by bundled validators. Struts 2 validation framework provides many built-in validators, also known as bundled validators, for email, string, int, double, URL, date, etc. So, we don't need to provide explicit logic for email, double, URL, etc. For providing specific validation logic, we can use regex, which we will see later. Validation interceptor. It performs validation against the specified validation rules and adds the field level and action level error messages. It works in conjunction with the workflow interceptor to display the error messages. There is no parameter defined for this interceptor. Advantage of bundled validators: fast development because we don't need to specify the common validators such as email, date, string length, etc. Two ways to use bundled validators. There are two ways to use bundled validators. One plain validator, non-field validator, syntax. Two field validator syntax. In the next page we will see the full example of bundled validators. Let's now understand the difference between plain validator syntax and field validator syntax. Struts 2 Ajax validation JSON validation interceptor. Struts 2 provides support to Ajax validation. In such case, page will not be refreshed or reloaded, so it will make the performance fast. It is implicitly done using JavaScript IE used for the client-side validation. JSON validation interceptor. The Ajax validation is performed by JSON validation interceptor. It is not found in the default stack, so we need to define it explicitly. It doesn't perform any validation itself, that is why it must be used with validation interceptor. It is found in the JSON validation workflow stack that includes JSON validation, and workflow interceptors and basic stack. Steps to perform Ajax validation. The simple steps to perform Ajax validation are as follows. Create the form to get input from the user. Inherit the action support class in your action. Define the validation in validation.xml file. And define result name input for the error message and register the JSON validation workflow stack in struts.xml file. Hope you liked this session. We will get back some more interesting topics in the next session. Till then, take care. Thank you.